Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that, well, it probably affects all of us, even if we don't always think about it.
Yeah, it's about how the whole world of commerce, capitalism, might actually be shaping our brains.
Exactly. We've been digging into this really interesting podcast script. It's called How Capitalism is Hacking Your Brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it raises some pretty big questions about what's influencing our everyday choices.
Right. And this isn't about like wild conspiracy theories or anything.
No, no.
It's more looking at how the system itself, needing growth and us buying stuff, how that interacts with our own natural brain wiring.
Right. Like the apps we scroll through, the food we suddenly need to eat.
Or the latest gadget we
Yeah.
feel we have to have. Are these things intentionally designed to sort of pull levers in our heads?
That's the core question, yeah. It's definitely worth exploring.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, think about it. Ever find yourself just endlessly scrolling?
Oh, yeah. Guilty.
Or, like, finishing a whole bag of chips when you weren't even that hungry?
Definitely.
So are those urges just us? Or is there maybe some science involved where companies are, I don't know, tapping into our reward systems?
Our attention mechanism.
Yeah, to keep us consuming. So let's get into the neuroscience bit first.
Okay. So dopamine seems absolutely central here. The source material really focuses on it.
Right.
For anyone who isn't like super familiar, what's dopamine actually doing in the brain?
Okay, so dopamine.
Hmm.
It often gets called the want chemical, right? It's a neurotransmitter. Big player in our reward system.
Mm-hmm.
When we do something good, or even just think about doing something rewarding, boom, dopamine release.
Gives you that feeling of satisfaction.
Exactly. And it makes you want to do that thing again.
Mm.
The source highlights how even simple stuff, like a phone notification.
Ping.
Yeah. Or just knowing that package you ordered is arriving soon.
Yeah.
That can trigger it.
And what's really interesting, or maybe a bit concerning, is how this basic biology might be getting, well, used.
Yeah. The source uses a pretty strong term, doesn't it?
Mm.
Weaponized dopamine.
It does. So how is this supposedly happening? What examples did the podcast give?
Well, the big one they talk about is TikTok's algorithm.
Ah, yes.
There are reports, apparently from former insiders, suggesting it's specifically built to create these dopamine loops.
Okay, loops. How does that work?
It's that constant stream of short videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each one might be amazing or funny or whatever.
So you keep swiping for the next potential hit?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It's unpredictable. That possibility keeps you hooked. The source actually calls it a slot machine in your pocket.
Wow, okay. That paints a picture.
It really does. And, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing how easy it is to lose half an hour just scrolling, you know?
Totally. That dopamine loop idea kind of explains that feeling, doesn't it?
It does.
That slot machine thing is powerful. It's that variable reward, keeps you pulling the lever or swiping the screen.
Right.
But it's not just digital stuff, is it? The source says this extends to, well, actual food.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The deep dive looks at the food industry and these flavor scientists.
Flavor scientists? Sounds intense.
Yeah. But the idea is they engineer these hyperpalatable foods, foods with just the right mix of fat, sugar, salt, stuff that basically lights up the brain's reward centers like crazy.
Ah, okay.
They use Pringles as an example, saying how it's hard to eat just one isn't an accident.
It's neuromarketing?
That's the term they use, yeah.
Mm.
Neuromarketing at work.
Yeah.
Creating something your brain just finds almost irresistible.
Okay, so if you put these together,
Yeah.
our basic brain responses are being, well, understood and maybe amplified.
Right. Across different industries to
Yeah.
get us to consume more.
Which brings us neatly to the next big piece the source talks about.
Right.
The attention economy.
Right. So we've got the want chemical dopamine.
Yeah.
Now, what about the thing that fuels it all, our attention?
Mm-hmm.
The source makes this pretty bold claim. Your attention is the new oil. What's
Yeah.
behind that?
Well, in the digital world, our focus where we put our eyeballs is incredibly valuable. It's a commodity. Tech companies, think Meta, Google. The source points out their whole business model is basically selling our attention.
To advertisers.
Exactly. The more time we spend on their platforms, the more ads they can show us. So our attention literally makes them money.
And the sheer amount of this, get this, the source mentions a statistic. The average person sees something like 6,000 ads a day.
6,000. That's a lot.
It's a constant barrage, isn't it? Just trying to grab our attention.
It is. And the source is clear. These aren't just random ads thrown up there.
No.
No, they're often heavily tested, A/B tested,
Right, trying different versions to see what works back.
Exactly, to see which version grabs attention, gets clicks, makes us feel certain things.
Like what? Well, maybe fear, like fear of missing out, FOMO, or just straightforward desire. They're trying to push emotional buttons.
This leads to something pretty thought-provoking from James Williams, who used to work at Google.
Okay, what did he say? According to the source, he warns that these systems aren't just neutral. They're designed, maybe intentionally, to erode your free will.
Wow. Erode free will. That's strong.
Yeah. The example was Instagram's Explore page, how it just seems to know exactly what you'll click on next.
Uh-huh. It can feel uncanny sometimes, can't it? Like it reads your mind.
Totally. The source definitely paints a stark picture with that weaponized dopamine idea. But I wonder, is it always deliberate exploitation?
That's a really good question.
Or could some of it just be, unintended side effects of companies competing really hard?
It's probably complex, right? The intention might not always be malicious. Maybe it's just optimized for engagement.
But the outcome?
The outcome can still be a system that kind of nudges our choices without us fully realizing it,
Yeah.
because the economic incentive is just so strong to keep us clicking, keep us watching. It can maybe inadvertently chip away at conscious decision-making.
Right. If everything we see is curated to hit our weak spots, how much choice do we really have?
Exactly. Which kind of leads us to another strategy the source mentions for keeping us consuming: planned obsolescence.
Ah, yes. The stuff that's designed to break or become useless.
Pretty much. Moving into the physical products now.
The source brings up Apple, right? Their past admission about slowing down older iPhones.
They said it was about battery life.
But critics, as the source notes, argued it basically forced people to upgrade, whether intended or not.
It creates that pressure, doesn't it, to buy the latest thing even if your current one works okay.
And it's not just tech, is it? Fashion gets mentioned too.
Oh, definitely. Fast fashion. The source talks about micro-trends.
Micro-trends.
Yeah, especially on places like Shein, Zara. Apparently, these trends cycle incredibly fast, like every 2 weeks, the source said.
2 weeks, wow.
Yeah, and this fuels this gigantic fast fashion industry worth something like $2.5 trillion.
That's insane. Just a constant churn of new stuff becoming old almost immediately.
And there's a psychological angle here, too, which is interesting. Psychologist Dr. Susan Weinshank's idea, mentioned in the source, is that novelty triggers dopamine. New things feel good.
Ah, okay. Connects back to dopamine.
Right. So brands tap into that. Constantly bringing out new stuff makes the old stuff feel, well, old, passé.
So it's leveraging our brain's love of newness to make us feel like we're falling behind.
That seems to be the argument, yeah. Keep up or feel outdated.
And there's a statistic that really drives this home. The source says the average American only wears about 20% of their clothes.
Only 20%.
Yeah, which suggests, a lot of what we buy is impulse, driven by that novelty cycle, not actual need.
Wow. So the picture is, well, it's a consumer world actively trying to hook into our brain wiring.
Yeah, maybe in ways that aren't great for us long term.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right? The source does offer some ways to push back. A resistance toolkit, they call it.
Yes, exactly. Some hope. Okay, so what's in this toolkit? First up, deleting apps that use dark patterns. What are those?
Okay, so dark patterns are basically sneaky design tricks in apps or websites.
Sneaky how?
They're meant to make you do things you didn't necessarily intend to, like signing up for something or making it hard to cancel.
Gotcha.
The source specifically calls out infinite scroll, like on TikTok or Temu. You just keep going and going.
Lose all track of time.
Exactly. And count-in timers in online shops, creating that fake urgency to buy now.
Right, pressure tactics.
So the suggestion is delete apps that rely heavily on that kind of manipulation. Take away the temptation.
Makes sense. Okay, what else? Ad blocking.
Yeah, ad block everything. They mention tools like uBlock Origin, Sponsor Block.
How does that help reclaim attention?
Well, it literally filters out the ads. You just see less marketing trying to grab you.
So fewer triggers for those desires and anxieties we talked about.
Pretty much. It creates a less commercially noisy online space. Gives you a bit more control over what you see.
Okay, that's practical. What's the third strategy? It moves beyond digital, right?
Right. Buy less, hack more.
Yeah.
And supporting the right to repair movement.
Right to repair. What's the core idea there?
It's about pushing back against things being disposable or impossible to fix.
Like that planned obsolescence stuff.
Exactly. It's advocating for access to repair manuals, affordable parts, letting people actually fix their own electronics or take them to independent shops.
Right. So valuing longevity over just buying new all the time.
Precisely. It's a direct counter to that constant upgrade cycle. focus on repairing, keeping things longer.
I like that. And finally, there's a broader point from an anthropologist, Jason Hickel.
Ah, yeah, the quote. Capitalism demands growth, but your brain doesn't.
What's the significance of that, do you think, in this whole discussion?
Well, it highlights this basic tension, doesn't it? Our economic system, or at least its current form, often seems built on needing more all the time. More growth, more sales, more consumption.
Right, constant expansion.
But our brains, while, yeah, we like new things sometimes, we don't necessarily need a nonstop flood of new purchases to be happy.
In fact, maybe the opposite.
Quite possibly. That relentless chase for more can actually lead to feeling anxious, dissatisfied, like you never quite have enough.
So the system's demands might be kind of misaligned with our actual psychological well-being.
That's what Hickel seems to be suggesting, yeah. A fundamental mismatch.
Okay, so wrapping this up, let's quickly recap the main takeaways from the source material we dug into.
Sounds good.
It really lays out this case that parts of our economy might be, well, intentionally tapping into our brain's wiring, our reward systems, our attention,
Yeah, from dopamine loops in
to
apps,
those hyper-palatable foods,
planned obsolescence in gadgets.
and the super-fast trends in fashion. The underlying goal seems to be keeping us buying stuff continuously.
But we also looked at some potential ways to counter that. The resistance toolkit.
Right, some first steps people could consider, like being aware of dark patterns, using ad blockers, thinking about repair.
Ultimately, the source suggests that just mindlessly consuming, pulled along by these neurological looks, doesn't actually lead to lasting satisfaction.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a treadmill, chasing the next thing that never, quote, delivers. The core insight seems to be that our natural desires are being amplified by these systems, maybe for economic gain, but not always for our own good.
And that final line from the source is pretty powerful. Your brain is priceless. Don't let capitalism jailbreak it.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It leaves us, and you, the listener, with a big question, really.
Which is?
Thinking about everything we've discussed, what's maybe one small change you could consider? In your digital habits, maybe, or your buying habits.
Yeah, just to be a little more mindful of these forces that might be at play.
Exactly. It's just the start of a much bigger conversation, isn't it? About how we relate to tech, to consumer culture.
And ultimately, how we stay in control of our own minds.